Hey Hip Chicks, painting shouldn't be a pain. It should be fun, it should be easy, it should be doable. Now listen, I know that you are all busy. You have active lives with kids and jobs and hobbies, but we all need to paint our house and keep it looking fresh. So I, as always, here at Hip Chicks, want to share with you tips to save you money, stress, and time taking care of your house. So tell me though, what holds you back from getting your painting projects done? Is it time? Is it the tools? Drop a comment below and tell me what is your biggest obstacle. I often hear from people that it's the color choice. So tell me what is holding you back because I can then create more content to support you. Now my last painting project was this weekend live on TV at QVC. Now, I've also taken my paint tips to the Rachel Ray show, but I have to tell you, there are tips and tricks that will help you get your painting projects done neater and faster and make them more doable for you. Honestly, I love to paint. I love picking colors. Now, that's a video for another day because that's a whole lesson in and of itself. So make sure you subscribe because I don't want you to miss any of those upcoming videos as Hip Chicks has now crossed the 10,000 subscriber mark. So make sure that you are a part of that family here at Hip Chicks. And don't forget to sign up for my newsletter. Every week I send out more content that backs up and gives you even a deeper dive into various topics. And you'll also find out when I'm doing my free homeowner hangouts, which I do every month. So make sure that you subscribe to the Hip Chicks family newsletter and you won't miss a beat. Oh, and by the way, I said 9 tips, but I've got a bonus tip at the end that you will not want to miss that will save you serious cash. So let's dive into these 9 tips to save you money, stress, and time. So how many of you have tried to reopen a can of paint weeks, months, or even a year after you have done your original project and you can't get the lid off? And you struggle and you work your way and the can lid gets all bent and twisted and it's rusted. It's often because you didn't clean the rim properly. So tip number 1 involves the Q-tip. Before you put your paint away to store it, take a Q-tip and clean that whole rim of the can and clean the lid itself. This way, when you put it back on, there is no paint in that tray for it to stick to and dry hard as a rock too, so that you can open the can more easily the next time. Now before you put that paint away, drop a few marbles into the can. You're dropping marbles in to mimic a can of spray paint that has the little steel balls inside so that when you shake it, it helps stir up that paint and really distribute the colors. So this way, when you go to store your paint and you add those marbles, it helps shake and stir everything up well. Now, when you are done your painting project, not just for the day, but for the long term, grab some saran wrap. Put saran wrap over the can before you put the lid on. Just leave a little bit of a dent in there so that it's not too taut. But now grab your lid and put it on. And that saran wrap will help keep it airtight so it will last longer if you need it for touch-ups. Now before you take a hammer and whack that lid tight into place over your saran wrap, grab a paper towel. Because if you put a paper towel over the lid before you hammer it, you cut down on those paint splatters. How many times have you gotten paint on a surface you didn't want to, namely your clothes, because you go to close up that paint afterwards and it splatters? So put your towel on and then give it a whack. The next 2 tips have to deal with the label and whether or not you can read it. So when you open a can of paint and you're going to pour the paint out, whether it's into a small cup because you're doing cut-in with a brush or you're putting it into a pan with a roller, make sure that you are pouring the paint so that it is not covering up the information label. So pour it down the front, okay? That's a better option than pouring it down the back. The information on the back is really important. What is the dry time? What are the humidity and temperature recommendations for using this particular product? And definitely that recoat time. You'd be surprised, some paints want you to wait a lot longer between coats than others. So don't coat over your instructions. The second tip is about using your cell phone to take a picture of the label. Now, some labels go on the lid and some are on the side of the can, but when you are done your project, take a photo of the label so that you can store them in a file on your computer, and you will be able to put them into a group of folders as to what colors were used in what rooms, and you can keep them all organized so the next time you need to go back for touch-up paint, you don't have to worry that the label is faded and worn because you will have it in your phone. Now let's talk rollers and brushes. It's really important that we take care of our tools, but sometimes we overlook that little task and are in a hurry. So if you happen to take your paintbrush out of wherever you keep your tools and it is stiff as a board, the bristles are really tight, they're locked together and you're trying to fan them apart, just stop. Get yourself some fabric softener. Take 50% fabric softener, 50% water in a little cup, and let your brush sit for a few hours. And then really rinse it well. And your brush will be soft and supple, and you'll be able to get back to painting again. So don't throw that brush out just because it feels a little stiff. Fabric softener and water works every time. Don't forget, when you are painting, when you are either using your brush for your cutting or you're doing your roller work, and painting has to stop, okay? Something has interrupted your day, whether it's nightfall and you just can't see much anymore, or you gotta drive your kid to the doctor. Grab your tools and put them in a Ziploc bag. Don't wash those tools if you're gonna be coming back within a couple hours or even the next day, because then you end up with a soppy, wet roller that you can't get wrung dry enough to get back to your painting. So what I do is I take my roller, I put it in a Ziploc bag and tuck it in there and seal the bag up as best as you can all the way around. Sometimes I'll grab a rubber band and put a rubber band on the handle as well. Do it for your brushes as well. Stick it in the fridge, put it in the refrigerator, and it will keep it cold, moist, and paint ready for sometimes 48 hours. And then you're not wasting time on the cleanup. Okay folks, tip number 9 is about storing that leftover paint when all of the project is done, and you may need touch-ups down the road. So you have a few options. You can keep it in the original can, and like I said, you do the saran wrap, some marbles inside. See if we can hear them shaking. Yep, they're down in there. And make sure, of course, the lid is on really well. Now, another option is to pour your leftover paint into a plastic container with a nice tight sealing lid as well. The most important part about storing that leftover paint is where in your house you actually put it. Ideally, it should not be in your garage, and I know so many of us, including me, have some paint cans in the garage. It should be in a more climate-controlled environment. So better off in the basement or perhaps a utility room, unless that utility room gets really hot because of your HVAC system. So keeping it in a cool, dry place will guarantee that your paint will be in better shape when you are ready for a touch-up. So I hope that these 9 tips were super helpful. And please make sure that you subscribe. I don't want you to miss out. This is the kind of practical, doable DIY that I like to give my followers and my subscribers, because I don't want DIY to be complicated or stressful or cost you a lot of time and definitely not a lot of money. Now, if you want to do a real deep dive and you want to be a real kick-ass homeowner, then make sure you check out my Home Improvement Hero Academy. I created this program a little over a year ago, and it is a hands-on, intense mentoring program for women homeowners. Guys, you are always welcome, but I focus on the ladies because we've been left out of the DIY world for too long. But this is a deep dive into electric, plumbing, carpentry, tile work, you name it. If you have a project you want to do, I will be your guide. We have pre-recorded classes so you can learn at your own schedule, and we also have a Facebook group. We have daily updates from me on your projects, and I see how you're doing. And we have coaching calls, and I bring in pros to walk us through projects so that we learn the insider information. So if you think you might want to take that deep dive into a DIY program, it's the only one of its kind out there. I have found nothing like this. So I created it instead. So make sure you check out that link and see if you're a good candidate. You can fill out an application. Now, let's get back to that final tip, this bonus tip that will save you serious money. I'm a big fan of Sherwin-Williams paints. They don't pay me to promote them, but I really love their paints and I love their crew because they know their products better than anybody on the market. So here's the deal. Sign up at sherwinwilliams.com for their newsletter and also follow them on Instagram and Facebook because you will find out when they are having their sales. They have sales pretty often, and you can save anywhere from 30 to 40% off your gallons of paint. That is a huge savings on really quality products, okay? So sign up for that, and when you get a notice, maybe you're not quite ready to paint. Maybe you still need a few more weeks to coordinate your flooring and your wall color with your furniture. So you're not ready to pick out your paint, but you don't want to miss out on that savings. So what I suggest you do is you go into Sherwin-Williams and you buy your paint, get this, untinted. You can buy your paint without any tint coloring added. And then weeks later, after you have figured out your whole color scheme and your design palette, you can bring the gallons of paint back. They will tint them then, and they will be freshly shaken, and you don't have to stir. So this way, it will save you a lot of money because you're getting a deal, and you'll also make sure that your paint is perfectly ready to roll out of the can and onto the wall with a fresh shake when you are ready to start your project. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.